So for a while in the past week, I was paying attention to the whole entire scandal that went down with Balenciaga, in which kids were being photographed with BDSM teddy bears and the controversial stuff that was around in it and stuff like that. So I just wanted to give my viewpoint on the whole entire thing just very briefly. Lightly researched it because I understood what it was about. And those that's been paying attention on my page for a while, I was actually taking a look at this stuff and I said, I'm not saying that I am in agreement with it, but this shows you the type of society that we're moving towards, where even European companies that have high-end fashion brands that's probably into that stuff and more than likely into NAMBLA, for example, is going to be pushing campaigns out in the open to not keep it a secret, to softly numb the generations to come into the idea it's okay in some form of practice to sexualize the children, in my opinion, in which they don't see a problem with it because as long as the child is not actually in those BDSM outfits, then there's nothing to worry about. It's just a photography shoot. It's just a name clothing brand that just did this in which they wanted to spice things up for their campaign and just make it so that children are the center of it. I don't understand what was the theme behind it necessarily. Like I said, I did light research on it, but when I started seeing this situation go on, and then other parties like maybe Kim Kardashian be involved in this, I said all of it makes perfect sense to me. So I just decided to give a brief rundown about the things that happened, just to check things out and just give a frontal view on the photographer that was pretty much responsible for this photography shoot happening. So if you check out my screen right now, this is the guy right here on your screen who took the photography, did the photography for the campaign. He said it's an exclusive ex Balenciaga photographer fears he will never work again, which throughout the campaign, I wouldn't say that he will never work again. It's just that you need time for the controversy to run over before, everything goes back away again. Because you see how this story is pretty much not going to be important by next week. And my thing about it is I don't think he's going to lose his occupation. But at the same time, this should be a smoke screen for a lot of parents out there that's taking care of their children now, in which this is the future society you have to look forward to blend out the differences between children and adults. It wouldn't surprise me that within the next 5 to 10 years, they will make the children numb to sex, in which I did a couple of videos touching on that from the Vet Children series, in which they now like to expose kids to self gratification. You know what I'm talking about, and also talking about intercourse earlier in a child's life than when it's appropriate, or let's say around their tween or teenage years. And of course, it'll be controversy. They say, well, they should be able to learn it. This is the stuff we need to go over because they need to be prepped for the world. They will do all these type of verbal gymnastics to make it seem like it's okay for your child to know all these different things and even expose them to kink. We all know it's wrong, but the whole entire point is to draw to basically thin the lines on everything, in which the child is exposed to adult stuff, but the adult stuff akin themselves to children stuff. So after being blamed, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'll put it in video description so you can continue reading it. After being blamed for Balenciaga's controversial BDSM marketing campaign, photographer Gabriel Gilberti has been subjected to thousands of death threats and now fears he will never work again. In an exclusive interview with Petapixel, Gallimberti says that he has already lost multiple job opportunities and photo gigs owing to his involvement in Balenciaga's shoot that featured child models holding teddy bears dressed in bondage gear. So we just get a rough estimate of things like this. And it's just really crazy how this whole entire thing happens. Yes, honestly, yes. I have worried that I will never work again because, especially for the first week, everybody was thinking that I was guilty because Balenciaga didn't do anything to take responsibility for what was happening, he says. And of course, these high end European brands will not take responsibility for it. They don't see anything wrong with it, or they'll hush, or they'll get a spokesperson to come out and basically take on the collateral damage that happens from it. But usually the point is, all of this is just to spread controversy, to create some type of controversy. Maybe it might be for a good cause to some that feel like they want to buy the clothes more for whatever reason that is. Or the fact of the matter, this is basically done to paint a bigger picture for the society at large, to create more of the shock effect so that people become numb to it in the future. I was supposed to have an exhibition on December 7th, but it's been canceled. I had a publication scheduled with National Geographic for 2023, but again, that was canceled. Galimberetti continues. I was dealing with a contractor who wanted to buy 3 of my prints, but he clearly told me that since the scandal with Balenciaga, I'm sorry, but I cannot buy your prints. Death threats. The renowned documentary photographer whose work, which includes the Ameriguns, and Toy Stories, is critically acclaimed, has received thousands of death threats following the scandal, many of which have been seen by Petapixel. Below are a few examples of those threats, with the identification removed. So you see right here, of course, it's going to be all these different things that they put on here, death threats and stuff like that, once they find who the culprit is. I don't think I've seen many of the YouTube videos in which they started talking about the photographer in general, Gabrielle, who is the one who did the photo shoot with the kids. Glenn Beretti was unfairly made to be the scapegoat for the Balenciaga campaign. Balenciaga later said it would not sue him, but the damage was done. Social media not only tried to blame the photographer for the shoot, but it also cruelly dissected his previous work. I received thousands and thousands of messages, emails, and death threats saying they know where I live and we're coming to kill you. Thousands of messages like this, not only one or two, he says. I've received phone calls in the middle of the night because somebody put my number on Twitter inviting people to threaten me. I was worried not only for my job, but for everything. I tried to get in touch with Balenciaga many times, asking them to take responsibility for everything. Well, this is the last one I'm going to read. His first advertising campaign. Glenn Beretti says he took the job of Balenciaga, which was his first advertising campaign because it paid 20 times more than his usual work as a documentary photographer. When I accepted this job, I have to be honest and say that I did it for money. When I work for documentary projects, even for my biggest clients, the maximum I get paid is $500 per day, and you are traveling and you are away for a month, he says. So when Balenciaga comes to you and they offer 20 times more, it's not easy to say no. With the amount of money Balenciaga gave me, I could pay a year's rent on my house. Interesting. Glenn Beretti explains that he was simply hired by Balenciaga as a photographer and had little to say in the campaign's content. However, he trusted the 25 other people who were making all the decisions on the Balenciaga set. So I just want to show you just a brief background of Gabriel's, I guess, work. You see this with the child in the background, in which this is the cover of Toy Stories, in which, this is, I don't know who this is specifically, this is just his documentary and stuff like that, campaigning for children and stuff like that. Pretty much all the projects that he's been involved in, which seems pretty suitable and nice because I'm into aesthetics and I would have an understanding on things and stuff like that. But my whole entire thing about the case that happened with Balenciaga that I wanted to share is just that, I'm not being insensitive to what the whole entire outrage was behind this campaign. It is wrong, but we have to remember those that's out there that's paying attention. If you've been watching my channel for a while, or people who do content like me, they are always going to let you know that they are going to put in slight little things so that children become numb to it. Because who do they want to be groomed for the next generation? Generation A. You understand? And so, Generation Z and the millennials are the parents now. And so, the programming has already been complete with the millennials. The focus is on Generation Z right now. And of course, what they want to do is be able to groom Generation A for the next upcoming features that the society has to offer to the world, especially as you move towards the one world government. What I would say is this: stay strong, uh, parental advisory on your kids, for yourself, and just make sure you stay around people who know the message and understand things. Don't allow your children to get into these weirdo things. Be sure to be updated with how your kid is interacting in school, because now we even know teachers do low down dirty things like putting little boys in dresses without their consent, or even something that happened in, I forgot what state, but they were having kids get the Karina shots without the parents' approval. So a lot of the low down dirty things is happening at this point, in which I would say just be aware of the surroundings. That's just my brief take on everything. But make sure you give your thoughts in the comment section. And before I leave, make sure that you like and subscribe. Peace.